So this has been a terrible week for Israel. Not only did we mark 180 days since October 7th, 180 days of captivity for the remaining hostages, more IDF soldiers killed, more attacks in Israel in the south, in the north, and even within Israel, and of course, the horrific tragedy involving the killing of World Central Kitchen aid workers. While Israel immediately owned its mistake and apologized, and while tragedies like this are a terrible part of war, under President Biden in 2021, the U.S. killed 10, at least, but in one specific case, 10 innocent people, including 7 children, and an Afghan aid worker in Kabul. Hundreds of thousands of civilians and journalists, including aid workers in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq and Syria and Yemen, were killed between 2001 and 2021 because of direct result of war that we played a major part in. Despite Israel apologizing for something that happens in war, an ugly side of war, Israel, as unfair as it is held to a different standard. Putting aside the Israel and Jew hatred that spews from all corners of the world these days, the rhetoric from Washington recently seems to me to be so dangerous because it glosses over Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and their commitment to annihilate Israel and the Jews. The rhetoric glosses over the hostages. It pushes them into the abyss. And Israel has become the demon, the reckless one, the denier of aid, which is so not true, and the deliberate attacker of civilians and aid workers, which is again so not true. Now, the rhetoric is in large part due to the awful reality that anti-Zionists and anti-Semites have successfully hijacked reality across the planet and here in our own country, among our own nation's leaders, making it politically dangerous even for staunch supporters of Israel to express their support on a good day, let alone on a day when the Jewish state admits to accidentally killing aid workers, when a national election is months away and the uninformed masses have unwittingly become, I love this term, useful idiots. It's a political term used to define those who propagandize for a cause without understanding the cause.
Stop ripping Apple News.
I know. Right. So as a result of these folks, they are used by the cause to push their agenda. And if you think I'm only referring to President Biden and the Democrats, please don't be fooled. I'm not going to stand up here and tell you who to vote for. I'm not going to tell you who I endorse and I don't endorse. But I will tell you that former President Trump has been incredibly critical of Israel this week as well. While in my opinion, the turn against Israel is in large part due to the ugly reality of politics in a year when politics really matters, there's more to the story. Before I continue, I want to take a moment to thank our Congresswoman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who took the time to call me personally this morning at my request and spend a long time on the phone with me so I could share my concerns about what we're hearing from Washington and the growing anti-Semitism in our own country, particularly on places like our college campuses. The congresswoman herself, she just got back from Israel, where she met directly with Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Herzog, and other leaders. Our conversation was long, and I have to say it was incredibly helpful. And honestly, it took me from a place of anxiety up here and brought me down a little bit in a good way. And it got me thinking about one of our biblical patriarchs, about Jacob. At the end of his life, Jacob summons his family, his 12 sons, to bless them. "Come together," he states. "Assemble and hearken, O sons of Jacob. Hearken to Israel," another name you know for Jacob. "Hearken to Israel, your father." Now, the late, great Rabbi Sachs of blessed memory points something out about this powerful moment in the history of our Jewish family when Jacob summons all of his sons, because it's the first time that the family comes together for a blessing. Prior to this, Abraham never really blesses his sons, Isaac and Ishmael. Isaac, he does bless his two boys, Jacob and Esau, but he does so separately, not when they're together. So in doing so, in breaking with his grandfather, who never blessed his kids, and in breaking with his dad, who blessed his children separately, Jacob, by summoning his sons together at the end of the book of Genesis, he sets the stage for something so incredibly important, something that still defines who we are today. Do you know what it is? The answer lies in the very beginning of the book of Exodus, which comes moments after he blesses his kids. By bringing his sons together, Jacob creates for the first time the people of Israel. And that is how they are described from that moment on as the book of Exodus starts. Blessed together by Jacob, who was also known as Israel, the people of Israel were formed by this summoning. And here we are today, the people of Israel. Shakespeare taught us in Henry IV, "Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown." Jacob, while he didn't wear a crown, he was the leader of his mishpacha, of his family, our family, the people. He had a tremendous amount of power, the power to create a people. And as Voltaire, and then Uncle Ben, who happened to be Peter Parker's uncle, Spider-Man's uncle, because he kind of is credited with this line, but it's really Voltaire said, "With great power comes great responsibility." Jacob had an uneasy task, the tremendous responsibility to say what was needed to be said to his sons as he blessed them. While he said beautiful and loving things to some of his children, like to Judah, "You, O Judah, your brothers shall praise, your hand shall be on the nape of your foes. Your father's sons will bow low to you. Judah is a lion's whelp. Oh, pray, my son, have you grown? He crouches, he lies down like a lion, like a lioness who dare rouse him. The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, so that tribute shall come to him, and the homage of people shall be his." Jacob understood that his role was not just to praise his sons through his blessings, but to ensure the growth of his children by sharing criticism as well. He had faith in the sons he criticized, knowing that they were wise enough to take the criticism and grow from it. And so he says, "Reuben, you are my firstborn, my might and first fruit of my vigor, exceeding in rank and exceeding in honor. Unstable as water, you shall excel no longer. To Simon and Levi, you are a pair. Your weapons are tools of lawlessness. Let not my person be included in your council. Let not my being be counted in their assembly. For when you are angry, you slay men. And when you're pleased, you kill animals. Cursed be your anger so fierce, and your wrath so relentless. I will divide you, scatter you among the people of Israel, among the family. Now, to show you that the sons, at least some of them, learned and grew and became powerful parts of the family as a result of this criticism, look at Moses and Aaron and Miriam. They are descendants of Levi. They are Levites. Levites are given heck by their dad, Jacob. The Kohanim descend from Aaron and were the leaders of the ancient temple. And the rest of the Levi family, the Levites, assisted in the ancient temple. And to this day, the Kohanim get the first aliyah, and the Levites get the second aliyah on Shabbat morning. Jacob knows the crucial role he has as a father of the Jewish people. And he understood the responsibilities that were inherent in his position. He knows that even if he has harsh words to say to some of his sons, they will be righteous and wise enough to see these words as constructive criticism coming from the love of a father. Today, we would call Jacob's critical words tough love. When I spoke to the Congresswoman this morning, that was a phrase that she used when talking about President Biden's response to the tragic killing of the World Central Kitchen and its workers. Biden is not Jacob. He is not the head of the Jewish people. And while Bibi is the head of the Israeli people, he's not the head of the Jewish people. But Biden, whether you like it or not, is our current United States president. And the Congresswoman assured me that his support for Israel remains strong, and the U.S.-Israel relationship remains strong. And out of all of the relationships the U.S. has with its allies, the U.S.-Israel relationship is the one that can and will survive the toughest of times. Now, it was as if, in talking about this, the Congresswoman, through her own emotions, was describing a family relationship. And we all know, as in any special family relationship, in any special bond, and the Congresswoman actually used this word, there are ebbs and there are flows. And during this horrific war, ebbs and flows are to be expected in the diplomatic bond that exists between the United States and Israel. And candor and criticism are to be expected. I would hope they weren't public, but that's not up to me, especially though this candor when things go wrong. But as we see from Jacob, candor and criticism do not mean the end of the bond. On the contrary, the candor and the criticism, along with the blessings, make us stronger. Because it is what made us, that blessing, which included the candor. It made us a people. What took place between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu and their respective governments this week was honest, was critical. I hear on both sides. But it was also, I have to really work at saying this because I've really thought it through, but it's also a blessing that is part of the ebb and flow, and it's already making us stronger and better. On the same dark day that Israeli military accidentally killed the aid workers, the United States government approved the transfer of more than 1,000 Mk-82 500-pound bombs, more than 1,000 small-diameter bombs, and fuses for Mk-80 bombs. The United States continues to ensure that Israel has what it needs to defend herself from Hamas and all the other terror groups out there. Yesterday, Secretary Blinken said, what happened on October 7th could have ended immediately if Hamas had stopped hiding behind civilians, released the hostages, and put down its weapons. But Israel is not Hamas. Israel is a democracy. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And democracies place the highest value of human life, every human life. Has been said, whoever saves a life saves the entire world. You can tell Blinken is a Jew. That's our strength. It's what distinguishes us from terrorists like Hamas, he says. If we lose that reverence for human life, we risk becoming indistinguishable from those we confront. Now, he understandably condemned the deaths of the World Central Aid workers, but he made it clear President Biden and the United States strongly support Israel in the face of real threats, and he stressed the United States' commitment to Israel's security. And right before I came here tonight, it broke on the news. I actually posted the video. Biden was outside the White House today getting into Marine One, and a reporter asked him, "Did you threaten to stop military aid to Israel?" President Biden's response, "I asked them to do what they're doing." The reporter, "Are you abandoning Israel?" And President Biden, in only the way President Biden can say it, said, "Where are you from, man?" And the reporter said, "Are you abandoning Israel?" And President Biden looked at him and said, "Is that a serious question?" Jacob's blessings of his son, all of them, all 12 of them, made us a people. But we're not just any people. We are the chosen people. And despite what some think about that term, our being chosen, it doesn't mean that we're better than anybody else. It means we're expected to be a light unto the nations. It means the burden on us is to be better, to lift the bar higher for ourselves, and then to lift it even higher. And because we are a light, the world looks to us, fair or not, and sees, are the Jews clearing the bar? Now, you know, if you don't, there's a problem. But you know I am a Zionist. I support Israel 100%. I have no patience for anyone who attempts to undermine the Jewish state intentionally or, like so many useful idiots, unintentionally. The ignorance and hate out there is overwhelming. This being said, uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. With great power comes great responsibility. We are the people of Israel, the Jews, the great nation of Israel, the chosen people, the light unto the nations, and the world is watching and waiting for us to stumble again so that they can pounce. So what do? We're Jews. We do the unthinkable. We raise the bar even higher for ourselves. Fair or not, that's what we have to do because that's our reality. It's what we do. Why I vehemently, I can't stress that enough, disagree with a lot of what Jose Andres, the founder of the World Central Kitchen, has said about the killing of his workers. While I struggle with it, I do agree. It took me a while to agree, but I do agree with this hard-to-hear statement that he made. Israel is better than the way this war is being waged. Granted, Israel is waging urban warfare. No military in modern history has faced over 30,000 urban fighters who use civilians as human shields to hide in miles and miles of tunnels built under civilian structures. Hamas hides behind aid workers and in hospitals and in ambulances and in schools. Hamas is stealing aid that the people of Gaza need. They've dramatically inflated, as George will tell you, the number of dead civilians, including the thousands of Hamas militants that have been eliminated in their tallies, and changing the age of victims to make them appear to be children, and the media gobbles it up like it's the truth. UNRWA and the UN are in partnership with Hamas, and they make the delivery of aid extremely difficult. Egypt, on her border, has been no help either. Israel is also fighting a war on her northern border with Hezbollah and struggling with terrorism within her own borders. Despite all of this, aid into Gaza, and think about it, what other country in the world would deliver aid to the country that you're fighting? Aid into Gaza, one of the reasons which the region that Israel is at war with, has increased before this week to levels higher than before October 7th. In fact, UN records show that twice as much aid has been delivered to Gaza since October 7th. And experts, including experts in the United States government, report that Israel has gone above and beyond in protecting civilians in Gaza, and the data supports this. But, whether we like it or not, and while at times we'd like to turn it off, we're a light unto the nations. We're the chosen people. Fair or not, the onus is on us, folks. On us, the children of Israel. Jacob's family. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. With great power comes great responsibility. And so in their long talk yesterday, Biden and Bibi talked. They're probably not the best of friends, but they do represent countries that are like families. And I bet they had it out. Blessings and criticisms were shared. And the U.S. is continuing to support Israel. We discussed the military aid. Today, 2 senior Israeli officers were fired, and several other top commanders in Israel's defense forces were formally censored for their involvement in the attack on the World Central Kitchen workers. Yesterday, the Israeli government opened the Ashdod port for humanitarian deliveries, and they opened the Erez crossing in the northern Gaza Strip for aid for the first time since it was significantly damaged during the attacks on October 7th. This morning, 100 aid trucks from Jordan were set to drive through the Allenby crossing to Kerem Shalom, crossing into Gaza on Shabbat, marking the first time the Gaza border crossing will be open over Shabbat since the war started. Israel continues to deliver tremendous amounts of aid to Gaza. Today, just today alone, 155 humanitarian aid trucks were inspected. They have to be inspected because Hamas uses them to smuggle things in. And they transferred that aid into the Gaza Strip. 100 food packages carrying over 100,000 meals were airdropped over northern Gaza. Again, fair or not, the Congresswoman used another phrase, thread the needle, as we spoke. As the U.S. and the Israeli governments navigate the complexity of this war against Hamas, the soon-to-be, because it's going to happen, the soon-to-be serious war with Hezbollah that will make the war that we're dealing with Hamas seem like nothing, the threats from the Houthis, and the rising tension with Iran that cannot be ignored, while protecting civilians on all sides, feeding the people of Gaza, and freeing the remaining hostages. Our 2 governments, despite what some want us to think, are engaged in the arduous task of threading the needle. I promise you there are going to be more bumps, some more like enormous mountain ranges along the way. Because Congress still has to pass a package to send more aid to Israel. And this is not going to be as easy as it was a couple months ago. And we have to stay on top of this, because we know that more and more people in Congress are not supporting Israel. Our college campuses are erupting, anti-Semitism is surging, and the threat to Israel continues to grow. As American Jews, as Zionists, we must continue to loudly and proudly support Israel every single way that we can. We have to be in touch with our leaders in D.C., encouraging their support of Israel. We need to connect with pro-Israel national organizations like AIPAC and the American Jewish Committee. We must communicate on a regular basis with President Biden. Stay in the know. Follow sites like I-24 News, which is Israel's news in English. It's the news station that the Israelis go to. Research everything that you read and hear. Don't believe anyone, including me. Research it. Get the facts yourself. But be careful where you're researching. Don't just go to one website. I go to 10 to find the truth. I'm happy to talk to anybody and talk to each other. We have to show up, and this is most important. We have to show up and support each other in person, at synagogue, at other Jewish events, online. Because, like Jacob's sons, we are a people, and we're a people because for centuries we've stood together. And we have to take care of ourselves. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown. We are held to a higher standard. And you know what? We wear the crown. Uneasy lie our heads. But we have no choice but to lift these heads up as high as they go and be brave. Because the world is watching and Israel needs us. Am Yisrael Chai.